How's it going, guys? This is Sumner with Heretic Studio, and today I'm going to show you how to install the 20-inch light bar that goes behind the grille on the new Toyota Tundra. The whole bumper will have to come off the vehicle, and to do that there's several screws under the hood, on the bottom, and in the fenders that we're going to take off to do this install. You will also need to relocate a wire harness that runs along the bumper here and a sensor that's located just behind this panel. So when you order the Toyota behind the grille 20-inch light bar kit, the kit will come with one 20-inch bar and either an amber or clear lens setup. You also get a set of vehicle-specific brackets to mount the light bar behind the grille and a universal wire harness to power the bar. So before we begin this install, we'll want to pop the hood and disconnect the battery. There are several harnesses that connect the grille to the vehicle's computer, and we'll disconnect the battery so we don't throw any trouble codes or short circuit any wiring during the install. This is the first set of harnesses we'll need to remove or to disconnect before we start the install. And then the next set of harnesses is over on the passenger side. So next in the install, we're going to start removing all of the screws that fasten the grille to the vehicle. We'll start by removing the 4 top 10mm bolts and the 2 push pins on each side of the grille. Next, we'll move down behind the grille where there's 4 10mm bolts holding the subframe assembly to the grille. After that, we'll move into the fenders where there's several 10mm screws that hold the fender on, and then we'll make our way to the bottom to remove 4 10mm bolts. Four bolts that we're going to take off underneath the bumper are on these arms here and on the 2 exterior arms. So in this part, we're going to pull this panel away from the vehicle to release it from the clips that are along here and along here. So while you're removing the screws on the top here, be sure to leave one finger tight in one of the positions. This will hold the grille on until you're ready to take the grille off of the vehicle to prevent any accidental dropping of the grille. So the next step in this install is to relocate this harness and sensor to up here. The reason for this is this harness blocks the light bar, and so we'll go through and remove these tabs one at a time and then move them up to this support bracket here. With the sensor, just be sure to get it as close to the factory location as possible. We have found that zip tying it right here is the best solution. So next we're going to install the brackets. We'll need to remove these 2 bolts and 2 bolts on the bottom side. These will be a 17mm, these will be a 14. Now with the brackets installed, we're ready to install the light bar. To do that, take off the L-shaped brackets with a 7/16 wrench and install the bar in here. Now it's time to tighten the body hardware. So before we reinstall the bumper and check the alignment of the light, we'll need to trim this plastic piece. So next, we're going to put the bumper onto the vehicle to check the alignment of the light bar in the grille opening. You may have to do this a couple of times to get the alignment right. All right, with the light bar adjusted, it's now a good time to install the wire harness. So this end here, that'll connect to your battery, and you'll need to run this end to the light bar, and then these ends to wherever you would like to mount your switch. So at this stage of the install, with the bumper reinstalled and all of the connectors plugged back in, reconnect the battery and we'll begin making our light bar power connections. Now the next step of the install is to run the switch wires to wherever you want to mount the switch. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do it. Our kit comes with a universal rocker switch that will require you to drill a hole in the dash and mount that switch into. So how we're going to run the switch into the car is we're going to go across the top of the engine bay, through the rain gutter, and then poke the harness through the firewall and the factory grommet. Ready. So there's a couple of different ways you can get the wire through the firewall. I personally like to use a zip tie with a sharp end on it to avoid poking or cutting through any of the wires that go through the firewall. And sometimes you can get through the firewall this way, other times you do have to go through the inside of the vehicle to the engine bay. On this particular truck, I believe it's easier to go from the compartment into the engine bay. So with the zip tie run through the firewall, you'll want to tape this end of the wire to the zip tie and pull it through the firewall. And then with it all taped off, spray a little Windex on the wire. That will help slide it through. And then onto the grommet. Cool. So when you're mounting your switch, there's 3 different wires that you're going to connect. The black one goes to this brass colored tab, the blue one goes to the middle tab, and the white one goes to the opposite of the brass color tab. Alright, your install is now complete. Thank you for choosing Heretic, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.